you're not ready for a deep think about who you are and how you are wired, this video is not for you. This video is about a new study that drives home a very important point about how our brains work and how that influences our happiness, our productivity, and our ability to stick to our diet. The study found, and this is also the title of the study, positive emotions and their upregulation increase willingness to consume healthy foods. This is a very important point that I also talk about in my book a lot, that your self-control, your ability to exert willpower and do things that you want to do even though they are difficult or even though they don't pay instant gratification, is very, very strongly influenced by your happiness. If you're doing something you love, then you will not face any need to procrastinate on it, you will not face any willpower failure, any trouble keeping your attention. What happens in your brain is that when you're doing something that you have to do, something you don't love, something that doesn't provide instant gratification, a have to thing, then the anterior cingulate cortex is essentially accumulating unhappiness. It's registering that there is no positive affect, no positive feeling being generated from this activity. And as a result, it's gradually coming closer and closer to focusing your attention on something else, because that's what the anterior cingulate cortex does. It regulates your attention and it kind of monitors your happiness level. So in large part, willpower failure and self-control failure, discipline, all of these things, they're not so much about fatigue, this whole metaphor of your willpower being like a muscle, it is mostly flawed. What's really tanking is your happiness. There is no such thing as a vat inside your brain. That's the traditional idea that people have about self-control and discipline, that there's something in your brain that's like emptying as you're using it and you have to kind of recharge it. Well, there isn't like a vat of your brain fuel that you're running out of, but there is something that's decreasing. So it seems like that model is correct, and that's why it took so long for researchers to find out that the model is wrong. What's happening is your happiness is decreasing. Actually, my girlfriend and I were talking about this yesterday. For example, she came home from a congress and we kind of both did the same thing. The whole day we paid attention to scientific lectures, scientific research, but the difference was that she kind of had to do it and I did it more voluntarily. And as a result, she was a lot more tired at the end of the day than I was. And it's not about what you're doing, it's how you're perceiving it and how it's impacting your happiness. And it's also true for many people when you come home from work, if you want to go to the gym or if you want to stick to your diet, as this study shows, it's not about fatigue, especially not physical fatigue, it's about unhappiness. So what you want to do is, if you come home late from work, of course, ideally you want to work on habits, you want to have a meal plan, you want to have your meal already prepared so that you don't have to think about food when you're hungry. All of these things, that's not the purpose of this video. It's more to think about your life as needing a certain amount of happiness, a certain amount of enjoyment in life. Hobbies, things that you like, things that bring you joy, positive social interactions. It doesn't matter what it is. If it's playing a video game, if it's interacting with your partner, if it's playing with your child, it can be anything that you like doing, but you need these things in your life that bring you happiness, that bring you joy, enjoyment, positive affect in the broadest term, as psychologists would call it. When you do this, you have essentially infinite self-control, but you need to keep that happiness up. When you're happy, somebody asks you to do something, maybe something comes up with your taxes or whatever, it's like, oh, okay, we'll do it right now. But when you're tired, or rather when you're unhappy, it's like, oh, I have to do this as well. You postpone it, you delay it, you don't do it. It's much more difficult, much more effortful. And the main message is, don't think so much about fatigue, because your brain in many ways doesn't really fatigue. It's like software. It doesn't fatigue, just like another topic is central nervous system fatigue, but that's also largely a myth because the brain doesn't fatigue. It's mental fatigue. It's unhappiness. When you're pushing yourself in the gym, it's kind of the same thing that happens. If you're doing something that's not providing instant enjoyment, in fact, it's causing you unenjoyment, displeasure, to push yourself beyond your comfort zone. That's literally de facto, by definition, what you're doing. And it's kind of making you unhappier in the short term. In the long term, of course, it's positive. But in the short term, it's making you unhappier, and that makes you feel fatigued. The thing that drives that is the displeasure, the non-happiness, unhappiness. The general take-home message from this video is that you want to think of your life as needing a certain amount of things that you enjoy, and also planning these activities in. For example, when you come home from work and you know that you're going to be super tired, know that you have something to look forward to when you get home, something that you can do for fun, and ideally make it something active that you chose, not just scrolling on TikTok or watching TV without knowing what you're going to watch. Make it something enjoyable that you know you're going to enjoy. It can be watching TV, but then know that you're going to watch one episode of this series, for example, and after that you're going to do your workout, you're going to go to the gym, for example, or you're going to have a good healthy meal. When you're planning your life like this, keeping in mind your happiness level and knowing when you're going to be less happy and when you're needing that additional boost, I think it makes a big difference in your life for diet adherence, your productivity level, and most importantly, your overall happiness level in life. If you found this advice helpful, I'd be honored if you like and subscribe. And if you know a friend who might benefit from this advice, feel free to share it to them.